So welcome to the Happy Mindset Show, the show that brings you insights, realizations, and lessons learned in order to help you to live a life you love. Today's episode is episode number 23, and today's episode title is Bite the Biscuit. So today I'm joined by Tara Prendergast. So Tara transformed and ran a restaurant at the age of 19. She started thinking about her purpose at the age of 23. She traveled for 2 years collecting business ideas everywhere she went, and now she runs a successful community for creative people called Bite the Biscuit. Tara also has a Tedx talk called The Creative Revolution, so I recommend that you give that a watch if you get a chance. So thanks for joining us today, Tara.
Hello. How's it going, Dennis? Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for agreeing. Yeah, I think like the first question I want to ask is what intrigued me was that you ran a restaurant at the age of 19. So what did you learn from that? Like, and how did that feel? Because I think you were managing people who are older than you as well. So how did that?
That's right. Jeannie Mac, that's a long time ago now. How did that feel? It was pretty stressful. Like it was. I would be quite stubborn. So when I want to do something, I do it, and I do it as well as I can. But what I found was the actual putting together and designing menus and the interior and dealing with the public and even building the team and managing the team that we had. We had 18 staff at one stage at the height of the business, and the stress wasn't really all those elements. Saying that it got a bit heavy, all right, managing 18 people who, you know, a huge percentage of them were older than me. And in theory, it probably looked like it could be more stressful than it actually was. But the way I set the business up, and I think this is why the business was so successful from connecting people with what we were doing in a restaurant. There was no hierarchy, so I never went in as the boss, like telling people what to do. I put so much effort in creating a community within the restaurant. So when there was a big decision, or when we had to change something, or we were introducing new menus or ideas, it was a group effort, and that was so very important to me. And that meant, and it showed, that people stayed with me. Like, you know, the big pain point for hospitality is the turnover of staff. And, you know, I had staff members that were with me for the 4 years that I ran the restaurant. They were with me for the 4 years. A lot of them were going to college, and every holiday, every weekend, they were in there. And we had a ball, really, looking back at it. It was mighty crack altogether. Very, very hard work. What I learned was, and I suppose, you know, with every job or project that you do, there's nuggets that really hit you in the face that you really learn from. And the big thing for me, which is quite interesting because of what I do now, is the power of community, even in that kind of environment. Like, not a huge community, but even that a small knit community of staff members. And it was funny, like, a few of the girls used to go, "Oh, here's the boss," and I used to go, where what boss? Taking the piss, like. But I never liked that hierarchy setup. And I always think, and even in this business, and I've had a few businesses in between my first one, I think the important thing when you're running a business is to surround yourself with people that are better at things than you are. Like, you know, there was a girl that was managing the restaurant for me who was older than me, Finola, who ended up opening her own restaurant after Kafka's, and she was so much better at processes and streamlining stuff than me, and I learned from her. She taught, even though I was paying her wage, that doesn't mean I was better than her, or I knew more than her. And I think that's really important in business, like, is learn from your team. And, you know, and if everyone is involved, it makes it more fun and interesting. You just don't go in and deliver the service or the product, you're part of it. And people really connect to that and they want to be involved in the decisions then. And it's much nicer environment. Like, so that's really what I learned from that. Yeah.
That's a key lesson.
Yeah.
So how about, like, why, I suppose the obvious question is, why did you decide to move on then 4 years later? What was missing for you?
I was, as we said already, I was very, very young. And I had an option. The business was doing really, really well. Like, we had queues out the door. You know, the brand was very strong. It was pumping. Like, I think it was at the height of where I thought it could go. Mm-hmm. And I had a decision to make. We could open another one, or we could extend next door because that was coming up for rent. So we could extend, which would have made perfect sense, or open another one in a different part of the city to continue the brand and grow it. Or I could sell it and go traveling. Mm-hmm. Now, I was 23. Yeah, I was 23, nearly 24 when I sold it. And I had worked my balls off for the last 4 years. Now, loads of fun, but I worked hard. Mm-hmm. And all my friends and even the gang that were working part-time with me were in college, and they were doing the whole, being on the piss, no responsibility except doing, homework and stuff like that. And I felt I was missing that big part of youth that I gave away to having this big business. There was a lot of pressure on me to come up with the next idea or the next and I just thought, okay, I can either go down this route and continue making shitloads of money and build this thing. Will that make me happy? No. What will make me happy? I haven't got a clue, but I'm not following money. Mm-hmm. That's not what I was interested in. So I just said, well, okay, I'm going to be smart and think about me as a person and sell the business, make a lump of money and head off and travel the world. And I'm so glad I did that, actually.
Mm-hmm. So what did you learn in your travels? What was the key thing you took away from that time?
Oh, that I really hate sand.
Sand?
Yes. Like, let's go to the beach. Okay. Sweat pouring off you like in Thailand. Oh my God. So, what? Flies everywhere, sand. Yeah, that was my key takeaway. I don't like the beach. And people always say, what? You're weird, you don't like the beach. No, can I get a pool and a lounger and an umbrella and a bar? Thanks. So, yeah, that was a big takeaway from traveling. Always keeping your eyes and ears open to what other people are doing. And I loved being immersed in different cultural environments. Like, I went to Laos and Vietnam and did all those countries, and then down to Australia, New Zealand and Bali and Fiji. Sure, I went all over the shop. Mm-hmm. And always having my notepad and paper, watching and listening and learning, and just human interaction and what people are actually interested in. And I found it very interesting just to go from country to country and to see how similar humans are in their kind of mannerisms and their habits, yet how different they are. So I guess the learning from traveling is, don't forget to stop and watch what the everyday stuff is, because I think that's where the magic is, rather than the big temple that everyone's looking at, this old thing, which is all great and everything. But I found the grounds outside much more interesting than the temple-y thing. I was like, yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, well, what are they talking about over there? That's way more interesting. Like, so yeah, I think people. I guess that's what I think. People are, amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So when did Bite the Biscuit come about, and where does the name come from? Actually, that's something I want to find out.
So my husband's French. That has absolutely nothing to do with
that explains
where the name came from. Biscuit. So I, before I launched Biscuit properly, and solely without having a million other jobs to support the process, I ran social media. I did a lot of social media management for companies, right? And for small companies, with another company, and so I called my my offering word out. So I was getting the word out, right? So that was very quick. And what am I going to call this? So I knew that doesn't represent me or what I was really after, but it had to work for that time. So on a holiday to France, we were visiting the in-laws in France, and we had around 50 bottles of wine one night, and I was demented going, what am I going to call my business? I know I want to work with creative people. I know why I want to do it. I know what impact I want to have, but what am I going to call it? And my husband said, well, Tara, what do you actually do? What's the offering? What's the offering? And I said, well, I help people with their marketing and social media and the mindset and blah. And I listed off all the things. He was going, oh my God, how are you going? So then he said, he's from a big multinational company, Salesforce, where everything is an acronym, right? And I'm always taking the piss out of him, going A, B, D, the D, B, R. I'm like, what does that mean? And so he's an acronym land, and he sat down and he went, oh, okay, so really you're going to have you're putting together a kind of a wallet or a kit for business, oh, I know, why don't you call it BIZKIT, Biz Kit? Bada boom. And I went, oh, Biscuit! And he went, no, not Biscuit. Yeah, Biscuit! And that's how we came about finding the word Biscuit. And I guess because I'm from the food world, it kind of relates back to my love of food and hospitality, and how food is really what brings people together, and then the whole kind of fun thing on Biscuit. So then I just said, that's it, perfect. So then Bite the Biscuit. You say, go on and bite the biscuit. Sure, do it. Bite the bullet. And you say bite the biscuit as well. And I had set up Biscuit and a Facebook page on my website, and I was in other networking groups, trying to network and go, oh yeah, and figure this out. And I was going, where are all the creative people gone? There's no creative group for. I went, okay, Tara, just start your own then. And then I went, what am I going to call it? Sure, well, Bite the Biscuit, obviously. Sure, that makes complete sense. Yeah. So then me and myself created Bite the Biscuit. And that's how that started, yeah.
So how did it start bringing people in, creating the community? How did that start for you?
So I reached out to, as I mentioned before, I wanted to be a painter in my last life. So I reached out to a lot of my friends and people in my network from me, and told them about what I was trying to do, and invited them into the community. Mm-hmm. I also was doing a lot of one-to-one coaching with creative people, after I moved to Dublin. So I invited them in, and once they were in, they started inviting their friends, and I went out a little bit to other networking groups, just looking at conversations and seeing was there any creative people in there, and then I posted a few posts about Bite the Biscuit, and then it just snowballed into what it is now, and it's all organic growth. I haven't advertised Bite the Biscuit. I haven't put it out there yet, but which is nice because it's all referrals and people hearing about how nice it is in there and how supportive it is. So it's a very important part of what I do, and it has had such a huge impact on so many people's lives. Mm-hmm. It's just really fantastic, and not by my doing, I facilitate it and I set the tone. But again, it's going back to that power of people and getting like-minded people together. And when you do that, magic starts to happen because everyone feels understood, and that takes away a lot of pressure and a lot of the pretense of I have to be this way because I'm going to look stupid, or I don't feel like I can say this. And the big thing for me in Bite the Biscuit is there are no rules. And when I started the community, so many people emailed me to say, you have to put rules in, you're mental, you're going to get people going blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, I'm not putting rules in. I hate rules. We have enough rules. And I understand we need rules, but I don't want to facilitate or create something and then lob in a load of rules. It's just not the way I'd like to manage it. And but it has worked really, really well. It's surprising, actually, how the community has so much respect for the space that there has been no need for rules. So it's funny, isn't it, how the collective can decide that without it being shoved down their throat, Do
you think your clear intention of what the community was about played a part in that?
Oh, I'd say definitely. I'd say, yeah. And just, I guess, the tone of how I interact and how honest I am. And I think when I started doing meetups in real life as well to supplement what was happening online, people met each other, which deepened the respect when we went back online. And also they met me, and I wasn't someone... I was exactly the same as I am online with all the funny pictures and just a bit mental. And that's just who I am. But that's why I created what I did, because I could be me. And I felt like I couldn't do all the mad stuff in other places. And so, that's why you do your own thing, isn't it? Yeah. So that you do it your way, So, so I guess, of course, that has had an impact, but I think it's the type of person that's in there as well, and just the respect for creative work and how different creative people, how differently we think as people, it's a special old place, really, in there. It's cool, it's great crack.
So, why are you so passionate about not leaving creatives behind in the digital age?
Because I think creative people have such a huge advantage as we dive into the digital age. I think we really should nurture our capabilities and our passion for creativity. But the big problem is that creative people struggle with surviving around their creativity. There's a huge problem with confidence around creative work, of not feeling worthy, and it all relates back to not being paid for what you do, or not having a proper job. And I think in, I hope not 100 years, so I want to see it because I'm going to have a part in it. I think there has to be a realization that creativity, no matter what happens with AI or digitally, creativity is at the center of every single person living on the planet. And I think everyone is creative. No matter what you do, you have to be creative to even figure out how to fix a zip. You have to problem solving, right? And I think each and every one of us should tap into our creativity, and people that are naturally creative in a bigger way, like the artists, the thinkers, the innovators, the poets, we have that creativity squashed at the front of our brain where we have to do it, and I think to marry people that aren't in that creative sector, if we can marry the two and make creativity really accessible to the normal person, normal person, what's that? Then that gets quite interesting as a survival thing for the future, I think. Because no matter what they create, no matter what they create digitally, you can't create creativity. That's in us. Like that's our gift, I suppose, that we can't. You can't program creativity yet. I maybe they're working on that, but that's why I think it's important to nurture creative people and to educate creative people, to enable them to have an income and create businesses around their work, so they have confidence to continue with their work, that they can say, I am an artist. Oh, that's a job, instead of people going, oh, would you ever get a proper job, which we get all the time. And that has to change. That has to change. The only way it can change, though, and it's not their fault, whoever they are, it has to begin with the creative. Because what happens is creative people blame everybody else, not all creative people, but they say, oh, we haven't learned this in art school, I can't make money from what I do. This is not why I make art. Well, that's grand if you want to have a hobby and then have a full-time job. That's cool. But if you want to live a life that you are passionate about and that you are sitting at your desk creating and making money from it, isn't that what you really want? And there's tons of resources and trainings and support there now for you as a creative person. And I think it has to start over in the creative community first. In order for the flip side to take us seriously as people that are running businesses that take ourselves seriously. Because if we don't, how can we expect anybody else to take us seriously? So it has to start from this side first.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you combine it yourself? How do you combine your business brain, your creative brain to work together?
Oh my God. You see, I suppose I guess I've been running businesses for so long. I'm at this 23 years. Big grey streak. I've been at it so long that, and I guess I'm from an entrepreneurial family. So we used to sit around the table at home figuring out how much money we could make from punnets of strawberries, or, if we used a thicker marker, they'd be able to see the sign further down the road. That's what we kind of talked about. Yep. So, and my parents always taught us that money wasn't an evil thing. It's what you do with money. That's what the important thing is. So, so I think, being creative and having the business acumen, I'm so lucky to have the two. And sometimes it's a bit of a pain in the ass because it's very hard to focus when you're a creative person, because you're always looking for new ideas and we tend to get bored really easily. So so that's quite a challenge when you're running a business, because you need complete focus on projects and getting stuff done. But it's a work in progress. And I think the big learning is to get help, ask for help, get people that are good at processes or good at mindset, or that can coach you with the stuff you're struggling with. Don't try and figure everything out yourself, because you're going to have a very lonely, bumpy road. And it's not necessary. And I think that was the biggest learning for me, is ask people to help you, because it's more fun when you're working with someone, or you have someone to bounce ideas off of, and it can make the journey so much more pleasurable for yourself and less stressful. So
that's true. I think you've somebody to celebrate with, and you've somebody that, in the bad times, you've somebody to talk to as well. So it's I think that's actually quite valuable.
Big time, big time, big time. And again, it's finding your community. And I know I'm banging on about community, but it's just so powerful when you have a group of people, or even if it's just one person and you can hold hands and say we're a community. But if you've some person to trust and, not someone that go, oh, you're doing great, everything's great. No, tell me stuff that I can learn from. Tell me the stuff I'm not doing well with and how I can improve to make it all better, and I think it's to find that group that gets what you do, and then you're not trying to explain yourself all the time. I think that's very, very important.
So you said as well that making money as creative is 10% talent. I think you've touched on this kind of already, but can you explain that a bit more for people?
Oh, 10% talent. Oh yeah, I got murdered for that. Well, here's the thing. I bet you everyone listening to this, and you probably will have felt this as well, Dennis. So you're walking down, say, Merrion Square, or you're going across the bridge, the big bridge with the speary thing down. I'm from Cork, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. And you're on holidays, right? And when I was traveling over in Thailand, I was mesmerized by the art that you see. But the lads are sitting down with no shoes on. Amazing artists, like blowing what you see in big snotty galleries, amazing talent. But they're sitting on a road trying to get a few pence to buy their dinner. They're poor, but they're fantastic artists. So it's all well and good to be an amazing artist, and but there's millions of them, right? So how can you make a living from being an artist? Not from sitting on the road hoping someone will even tell you that your work is good and that's all you want. That's not going to feed you or build a brand around what you do or give you the confidence to create new work or get you into a scene where you're going to meet other creative people to collaborate on projects to make a difference to the audience you want to reach. So the work is 10%, but the rest of it has to be how you position your work, who you meet, how and who you network with, how you sell, how you price your work. I mean, that's the work, that's the hard bit. Now, I'm not saying creating work is easy, but there's no point in having a studio full of amazing work if nobody sees it or you can't sell it. Or you're relying on galleries to sell it, and then they take, and I'll get killed for this as well, they take 70% of your income. That's grand, but you supplement your revenue stream by an online store where you sell prints of your work or a different body of work. And I think there's a huge nearly cultural thing around money and selling art, and you can't be an artist if you are focused on making money. I understand the intellectual art movement. I get it and I appreciate it, and I think it's wonderful. But there's a huge amount of artists that are creating this amazing intellectual work that can't feed themselves or their families, and that are working crappy jobs that they actually hate. And I think, no, it doesn't have to be like that. You can come to a middle ground where you are doing your intellectual work, but you also have another world over here with new work or different work that you can actually sell. So yes, I think 10% work, and the rest has to be using the noggin and thinking a different way and not being conditioned to have to do it the way they've always done it, because the world never changes if people keep doing the same thing over and over. We have to change it at some point, and I think there is going to be a huge shift if I have anything to do with it anyway, Dennis.
Sounds good. I think what's challenging is that I think it requires a mindset shift, and it's so easy to kind of go, well, I'm not a business person, I don't know anything about that. If you can let go of that and actually learn the business skills, it can complement the artistry then. It's but it requires that mindset shift to kind of take an internal look. And it doesn't mean you need to figure it all out yourself. Like you said, you can hire a business coach, but be willing to listen and take on board their advice, but also find the right people as well. Not just anybody.
Support you on it. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. But isn't everything mind shifts, like in mindset? I think any kind of stumbling blocks that we have, it's how you look at things. It can change everything. And I think the key thing is to be open to a new way of doing things, and we talked about this before we came on about limiting beliefs, and how I think every single artist or creative person has a limiting belief around money and art. And I'm shit with numbers because I'm a creative, and that nearly goes hand in hand. But here is the interesting thing. You can learn numbers. You can learn art, but you can't learn your skill. You have that in you.
Yeah.
And it's developing it and, making it better and better and better. But the thing that's stopping you, you can learn that. It's just allowing yourself to dive into that learning process and be okay with it. And that changes everything. And it's not that hard, actually, once you sit down and learn it. Like, you don't have to learn tables or anything 5 by 5 like in school.
Yeah.
But you like it's just understanding it. Like,
it becomes learning becomes a habit too. Like, it's like once you get into the habit of learning and you start seeing the principles behind learning, it makes it easier to just learn stuff in general, and so you don't fret about it too much then. As you go through the process, I think.
As you go along.
Yeah. There's certain stuff you just need to learn. The technical stuff, like producing a podcast, requires me to figure out how do you do that technically. Even though I mightn't enjoy it, sometimes it's like that's a means to an end. But if I don't, I'll never get in.
And I think you've hit a nugget there, an interesting nugget there, Dennis, when you said, I mightn't enjoy it. And this is what happens. So creative people love doing what they do best, and that's creating. So they love the process and the making and the mixing the paint, or being at the wheel, or creating the jewelry, or taking the pictures and getting out there, or talking to people, or whatever your business or your passion is. But the fiddly spreadsheet bit, which I'm allergic to, it's like, you don't want to do it because it's boring, and you don't want to. So is it that you're not able, or is that you don't want to sit in front of a spreadsheet and understand numbers? I think people are well able for this, because it's pretty easy, basic. What comes in, what goes out, what I have to pay equals the end. Basic stuff. Like, it's not wanting to do it, and I think that's the question you have to ask yourself: am I able, or do I just not want to do it?
That's it. Yeah, sit with that for a while.
Yeah.
Another thing I just wanted to touch on is listening. How important is that for you, and how has it played out for you as you've evolved your business?
Listening, it's everything. It's everything. Everything that I've created to help creative people is around listening. And Bite the Biscuit has been instrumental with this process, because there's nearly 4,000 people active in that group every week. The numbers are phenomenal right now, and that's active members that are having conversations, that are asking questions, that are sharing their insecurities or their fears. And this is how I can understand what's actually going on with creative people right now, rather than which drives me mental, but I understand it, but it really drives me mad, is when you see other programs and maybe government initiatives for creative people, but they're not in conversation, or they're not listening properly to creative people. They don't get it. It looks great, but when creative people go into it, it's not what they need. And I think listening in business is non-negotiable. I mean, you have to listen to your audience. You have to listen to who you're trying to help, because they're the only ones that know what they need. So if you're not listening to them, how can you help them? I think that is the backbone of, it should be the backbone of every business.
Yeah. So is there any book that stands out in your mind for you?
Any book that's, oh my God, Essentialism.
Oh, Essentialism, yeah. Can you explain that a bit more, what you learned from that?
I think keeping things simple is brilliant, and that's something that I think stops a lot of people progressing their businesses. For example, if you're making a website, and I've done this so much, like I've really learned the hard way, and this book made so much sense to me when I read it. I'm going to launch the website now when I have it dipped in glitter and there's 100 million buttons that twirl upside down and do somersaults, and then I'll launch it. And I think this is the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make, including myself. When I get really good at speaking, public speaking, then I might do a Facebook Live, or, I can't put my earrings out there because they're a little bit off center and I'm just not happy. So I'm going to stay in the studio for the next 8 years and perfect that earring. And in the meantime, 100 million other people have made the earrings, sold the earrings, they're gone out of fashion, and you've lost your mojo. So I think Essentialism is about really understanding what is the basic needs of moving forward and making the move and making it happen. And a big thing that I say all the time to my community is done is better than perfect. And I couldn't emphasize this enough to them. Even the other day, like someone was saying, I can't do it that. And I went, hang on a second. I want to see it live tonight by 8:00. Done is better than perfect. Bonnie, right? Because you publish something or you go live, it might be crap, but no one's going to see it. You know how hard it is to get people to see what you put out there first? Very hard. You have to drive traffic to it. That's the first thing. The second thing, you're constantly getting better. So if you don't start somewhere, how can you get better at anything, including making art or products or services or whatever you're doing? If you don't start, you're not going anywhere. So if you're always fiddling in the background, you're just playing, and again, going back to the listening thing, when you do put your stuff out there, and this is why I started the Show Off Friday campaign inside the Bite the Biscuit, is when you start showing off your stuff at whatever stage or level you're at, it's the feedback that you get from that work that you put out there. That's the important bit, because you're listening. What are people saying? What's the reaction like? They didn't really like that much. Oh, look at the reaction I got on that. Jeannie Mac, I must create a shop and sell it. I always think, look at this thread. Please make an online shop now and put the link in. Because people are like, where can I buy this? Where can I buy that? Listen, watch. And that's how you learn. So if you're not putting it out there, you can't learn what people are actually into and where you should be focusing your energy around selling. So I think it's super important to keep it simple and just put the basic stuff together, and then just keep getting better. And then you can add your bottle of glitter a year later when you've figured out all the other bits, that comes down the line. But don't let it stop you moving forward in your business.
That's true. You actually need something to put the glitter on. That's kind of the thing. And actually, this is how this podcast happened. It was from Show Off Friday. I posted a link to my podcast, and that's how this podcast happened.
There you go. Yay! But there you go. That's it. It's just, you just need a safe space to be able to do that. And I think somewhere like Bite the Biscuit, where people are at every level. I mean, there's people that are in galleries, high-end kind of selling stuff for thousands and thousands in there. And there's people that are selling stuff for €3 in Etsy that I give out to every day in there. So there's a huge array of talent and where they're at in their businesses. And I think that's interesting because there's no hierarchy or there's no judgment. I couldn't give a shit if you're in a gallery or not. That means diddly squat to me. Like everyone is the same. Everyone's a creative, doing their thing. Let's just support each other and help each other on everyone's journey. That's what's important, And I think in the creative world, we have to integrate that into the creative world because creative people are so hammered with confidence and intimidation from the high intellectual artists who are intimidated by the people that are selling shitloads of stuff on their online website. So it's across the board, I think it all has to be stripped away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Supporting people on their journey. That's
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do people reach out to you, Tara, and how do they join your community if they want to?
Well, they can join Bite the Biscuit on Facebook. So we have a Facebook group, Bite the Biscuit. So if you're a creative brain and you want support and it's a fun environment, and people are meeting each other as well in Bite the Biscuit, and a lot of people are working with each other on projects, and more interestingly, a lot of people are buying from each other because now we all call each other bickies or biscuits. So there's a big kind of loyalty thing happening inside the community where people want to support other community members. Following that, the next project for Biscuit, I'm creating a Biscuit marketplace. So we will be launching that in October, crossing all fingers and toes.
How will that work? How will that work?
The Biscuit marketplace is an extension of me listening to what's happening already in the community. So people want to buy from each other and they are buying from each other. But how it works now is I need a gift for my dad who does gifts for men. Big thread, right?
Yeah, it's last.
Hang on a second. Let's make this really easy for biscuits. So I'm putting together a marketplace platform. So you apply to be a vendor and you come on and you have your own shop front and you can sell your products. And then as a user, you can go on and go, I'm looking for gifts for him. I go in, here are all the gifts for him. Ting, ting, ting. And it's all biscuits in there. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. So if you want to dive into that, join Bite the Biscuit because all my communication goes via Bite the Biscuit because I'm creating this for the biscuit community. So that's what's happening with that. And then there is the Biscuit Factory. Oh my God, there's so many biscuit places. I get so many messages on LinkedIn. Are you looking for new flour manufacturing case for biscuits? I'm like, oh crap. I better clarify that a bit. But we don't make biscuits. So the Biscuit Factory is a membership community that I run, and we do a lot of training, and we do live calls every week and accountability challenges, and we've guest trainers and me training, and there's loads of stuff happening in there. So that's the biscuitfactory.ie, and you can dive in there. The doors open again in October. They only open 4 times a year, so you can dive in there and have a look at that. So that's a really very proactive, if you're really serious about pushing your brand and your business forward, that's where you need to be because we're shaking things up in there big time. So yeah, there's a few different places for you now, Dennis.
Cool, no, sounds great. So thanks for your conversation today, Tara, and shedding some light on the creative and business element to what you do.
Thanks so much for inviting me on. I'm delighted to talk about myself and the biscuit community. It's great, and it's kind of rare that I do these, but I must do more of them, Dennis. Thanks for starting that ball rolling with me now as well. Thanks a million.
Cool. No, thanks for sharing, Tara. So cool. Okay. So until next time, have fun and enjoy the process.
Bye. Keep creative.